ago. And thanks to all of you who are participants in this on a regular basis. It has been a huge success. I want to reach out to our friends, colleagues, and our host tonight, Deerfield Properties, for hosting this event and for what we all believe and know will be a terrific presentation. So with that, let me introduce the other host, the real host, Nancy Kelly.
As always. Well, welcome everyone. I can't tell you how excited I am to be here tonight in person with all of you and without something stuck on my face. I'm sure you all feel the same way. So this is a really historic milestone for us. And it is the first post-pandemic in-person event. So that's wonderful. And we're so excited to see all of you. So thank you for coming. As Mitch said, my name is Nancy Kelly. I serve on the steering committee and as a founding member of NYC Builds Bio. And I would also like to acknowledge Deerfield Management and the New York City Economic Development Corporation, without whom this innovation campus would not exist. And I also want to thank Safety Partners for sponsoring this gathering tonight. Thank you, Denise. You want to stand up? And this is Denise Anderson, the CEO of Safety Partners.
Thanks to Deerfield and New York City Builds Bio for this opportunity. Happy to sponsor. Eat and drink, please. So Safety Partners is 65 employees, 30 years in business, born and bred out of Cambridge, Massachusetts. So we grew up with life sciences. I feel hand in hand, step by step, made that a thriving community of life science companies. About 5 years ago, we decided in our little boardroom, what is our stretch? What is, how are we going to expand? And we decided New York City Life Science was going to be it. And we are overrun with business in Cambridge, Massachusetts, ridiculously busy. We work 220 clients every month in Massachusetts, providing safety and compliance to laboratory-based companies. And our feet are very wet in New York City. We've done it for 5 years now. I've met a lot of you in the audience. I love New York City. I love being here and being part of this ecosystem. Our job is, there are 3 pieces to our job. One is when a landlord owner thinks about a new building, maybe converting office to lab, maybe opening up an incubator. But from the landlord owner point of view, there is some EHS to think about. It does not have to be a big budget item. It's not a huge piece of what you're doing, but to get Safety Partners 2 cents early in the design plan, we could be all of 10 hours in 2 years of planning that will help you as the owner sell your leases like hot potatoes, right? Because we work so intently with your resident companies, we know what they want, and your job is to make sure you build something that the people want and sign a lease immediately. So you can use us for that, 2 cents of work early in the project, thinking about shared space and waste rooms and what does a scientist really expect when they walk into that building. The second place we work is for the owner landlord. For example, at Deerfield, we are honored to work with this group, and we came in later stage. So not at the design plan, but 6 months before you open, Deerfield's thinking, what do we want to do with our shared space? How do we want to greet our new residents and tenants? What do we want to tell them about our care about workplace safety and compliance? So we help them, again, not a ton of hours, not a ton of work, but a presence of how they're going to run their building to make sure that their incoming residents value safety. So that's the second piece. The third piece actually is the place where it's our wheelhouse, and we're totally immersed in, and that is for the resident companies. Our job is to work with scientists on a weekly or monthly basis and create and implement biosafety, chemical safety, radiation safety, vivarium safety, machine shop safety. So any hazardous material process or piece of equipment needs local, state, and federal compliance. And more importantly, what are the practical and efficient procedures and practices to make sure that the employer is doing good by their employees, and to make sure scientists go home the same way they walk in every day. And now, of course, we layer COVID policy on top of that. So that's what we do. And thank you for listening to me. I left a couple pamphlets, pieces of collateral out on the chairs, and I have business cards, and we're happy to help you if and when you need us.
Thank you, Denise. That's great. I got to know Denise a little bit when she was in Cambridge, and now I'm really glad that she's in New York. And of course, we always want to thank our corporate members and founding members of NYC Builds Bio who make all of our programming possible. And we thank you for your support. There's many of you in the audience tonight, so we appreciate it. In 2019, The Cure, a healthcare-focused innovation campus, was announced by Deerfield Management Company, an investment management firm committed to advancing healthcare through investment, information, and philanthropy. They're going to tell you all about this campus tonight. And the New York City Economic Development Corporation has also committed $92 million in economic incentives to this project over the next 20 years. Deerfield has also committed $30 million toward professional development programs designed to prepare New Yorkers for jobs in this well-paying industry. Our speakers include Jim Flynn, Managing Partner, Deerfield Management, Susan Rosenthal, Senior Vice President, Life Sciences and Healthcare for the New York City Economic Development Corporation, Howard Levin, MD, CEO, Caridia, and Chief Executive, Deerfield Catalyst, and Ronald Mitchell, CEO of Humanity Health. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. This event is an event that's part of an ongoing series of programming that NYC Builds Bio puts on. You can see upcoming events on our website. Please register for our upcoming webinar next week, which is being sponsored by the New York Blood Center, which will focus on diversity in science, medicine, and academia. And of course, we're all excited by the 4th Annual Life Science Real Estate Development Symposium, which is coming up on November 4th, taking place from 8 to 3 p.m. with a reception to follow. We hope that all of you will attend, sponsor, exhibit your projects there, and we're just going to have a great day. We do have some people joining us virtually tonight, so I want to welcome them as well. If anyone's having technical difficulties accessing the Zoom room or anything else, please email info@nycbuildsbio.org or send a notice through the chat button at the bottom of your screen. As usual, there's a PowerPoint and a program highlighting the hosts and content of this meeting. It will be posted on our website and distributed to the registrants after the meeting. So you can come back and listen again at any time that you want. So now I'll open it up to Jim Flynn, Managing Partner of Deerfield Management, who will lead us on an exciting tour of The Cure.
Normally I would say I'm glad to be here, but I'm here every day. And I'm more glad that all of you are here. And, while we're building and flying the airplane a little bit, we got a little taste of what we are creating. I'm really happy to be here with Sue, who helped make this possible, and with Howard and Ron, who are going to breathe life into it through innovation and good works. A little bit about Deerfield. We're an investment firm with about 14 billion in assets. We're focused on advancing healthcare, and if you want to advance healthcare, that's both a for-profit and a not-for-profit endeavor. And The Cure will embody both of those ambitions. And hopefully you'll hear a little bit more about that from all of us as we go on. For us, focused on healthcare, this is truly, in my 31 years in healthcare, this is the most exciting time. There's a proliferation of data, whether it's genetic data, whether it's from human patient records or other sources, which combined with technology is advancing drug discovery at a pace we've never seen before, and it's advancing healthcare delivery at a pace that we've never seen before. So in order to support that, since we work across healthcare, this building has been designed to support every kind of company, whether it's a lab company, whether it requires high-speed computing or other special needs on every single floor in this building. So every floor can be a lab floor, every floor can be a digital health floor, every floor can be a medtech engineering floor, depending on the need, the time, and where innovation is most interesting. What you would see today is that, like I said, we're sort of in the middle, and these slides will show a little bit of the before, during, and now. So the floor that you're on is fully done and has the gym and place to eat. To the left is 3DC, which is Deerfield Discovery and Development. And this is a group that works with our 25 university partners to discover new drugs. So we literally work with investigators on each of those campuses. We have $1.5 billion committed to drug discovery from things that come from those campuses. We literally design and execute on that research plan, and that's all occurring there. And then on the lab floors below. In terms of digital technology, that's something that we're highly focused on. What you all are going to see is a revolution in healthcare delivery where people are going to focus on value-based care. Value-based care is where physicians are not treating based on being paid for a procedure, but being paid to prevent procedures. And particularly with COVID, people have learned to use telemedicine and other technology tools to treat out of the home. So we've started value-based cardiology companies, kidney-based companies, hospital at home, primary care at home. And all of this evolution is coming from things that are being started from this facility as well. So in addition to the innovation, and I'm going to let Ron and Howard talk about more of what's going on in the services and medtech side here. But convening is very important. And so there's a large aspect of this building that is dedicated to all of the sorts of convening that lead to innovation and making innovation available to all of us who need it. So we have a roof deck that's finished on the top with a terrace that can hold about 150 people. Our intention is to have things focused on science, policy, or entrepreneurial learnings almost every day on the roof deck. Like I said, we have this floor, and then on the second floor, we're finishing up the Collaboration Residency, which is for small companies, but we also have 4 classrooms, which collapse to a 400-person auditorium so that we can handle a whole range of interactions, whether they involve networking, learning, or education. So with that, I think these pictures have sort of created the backdrop so that you can get the visual. I'll turn it back to you.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Sue, you know, we often hear that the New York City market has not developed and lags behind other markets. How do you respond to that?
Oh, first, do you need the handheld microphone? I just want to make sure you're heard.
Thank you.
So it's great to see everyone. I see many familiar faces in the audience. I also see many new faces. So hopefully we can meet during the cocktail hour. It's so great to be together. Just very quickly, EDC is all about economic development. And one of the veins of that for the city is life sciences. Historically, 20 plus years ago, it had not been, but we have all of the ingredients to do it. And we've made changes within the city to welcome and harness more life sciences growth. And we've seen a lot of that take off over the past couple of years, despite the pandemic, because of the pandemic. And we are really just thrilled. If you had asked maybe 10 years ago how many life sciences companies were here, you could probably count on your 2 hands. maybe a little more than that, but not much. And we looked before the pandemic and we did a bit of a scan of ourselves and looked at how many companies were in the city. And at that time, in end of 2019, was about 150 companies. We are now double that. And so we are seeing more fundraising. We are seeing more funding available. We're seeing more buildings come online. We're seeing many of the institutions generating more companies with a better focus towards that than ever before. And so I think we're at that point in the inflection of a takeoff that we are taking off. And it's a really great time to be in the industry in general, but also in New York City in the industry. And I think I answered your question.
Yeah, no, it's very, very exciting. And as somebody, as you know, who's been watching that development for the last 20 years,
Yeah.
I'm really, really encouraged.
And
So
actually, Nancy, if I could just add one thing, I think it's a myth about New York City. I think there's been this comparison for the past 5 to 10 years of New York City compared to Cambridge or compared to San Francisco. And when we've asked some of the ecosystem partners, both inside New York and outside of New York, about the city, we're getting answers that are about 5 years old at this point. And we start sharing the various different growth points of companies, whether that's into the incubators or out of the incubators, or going for their Series Bs and Cs and going public and growth in terms of numbers. And so I think that myth, it's time for us to, set that aside and say, we're here as a city and we're growing.
I agree. And that's why we're going to focus on the greater New York, New Jersey, Connecticut market at the symposium in 3 weeks.
Great.
And show everybody just how large this market actually is.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about the LifeSci NYC program and what you're doing. You had big, exciting announcement
Yes.
Recently,
Yep.
and the Pandemic Institute was
Yep.
just announced. So tell us a little bit.
Sure. So back in 2016 was the first announcement after a few projects over the past 10 years or so before that. We announced $500 million of city funding mechanisms to support growth. We actually doubled that in June to $1 billion. And we're thrilled to be able to learn from everything we've done before, learn from the pandemic. And frankly, the pandemic showed us that life sciences is quite a resilient industry during times of toughness. And so why not lean into that more? And so we now have $1 billion of resources, whether that's to support infrastructure, to support talent programs, to support buildings like this, and more of those to come. We also announced a couple of weeks ago the launch of the Pandemic Response Institute in partnership with Columbia University and CUNY. Hopefully, New York City can, as it always does, be a leader in this space so that we can prevent and be ready for future health emergencies, not just pandemics. And so we're very excited to have that start coming to fruition over time as well.
So what was the vision or the notion behind partnering with Deerfield to create the cure?
So life sciences is not something that as an industry you can just say, go. There are many difficult things to build an industry like life sciences, whether that's the types of spaces you need, but also the programming that you need, the ecosystem, the interactions you need to create between companies, between leaders, between the talent, between the scientists. It's really meant to be about creating room for those collisions. And that is how innovation happens. But you also need flexibility for companies to grow in various different ways. So working with a partner like Deerfield has experience in this. They know healthcare, they know life sciences. They are working with companies day in and day out. And so we felt it was a really, really compelling partner to work with in putting a campus like the Cure together. And that notion of the campus, it is a building that has many different elements throughout it. And that's everything from the wet lab support that you might need to the incubation, to thinking about the intersection of technology and with engineering and med tech and various other subsectors of life sciences. And so knowing that would all be cultivated within the same building was incredibly compelling to us.
Great. So how many jobs do you think will be created here?
Well, so we get into debates about how many jobs all the time. We think our estimates for the building at any given point in time, based on the way we do estimations, at any point it might be about 1,400 jobs or so, but that's a snapshot. I think over time there will be thousands and thousands as companies grow within, they might expand out. You could see there being so much more than that.
Yeah. So what are the programmatic elements that make sure that these jobs will be available for all New Yorkers and those in underserved communities as well?
Well, so Deerfield has actually been paying attention to this for a very long time, which I think is just refreshing for our industry. I think we have a long way to go as an industry globally to make sure that the opportunities in life sciences are available to people of all different backgrounds, of all different education levels. And so we have a number of different efforts within the building, whether that's Deerfield launched the Exceed Award last year, which is meant to help founders that are either women or minorities with seed funding for their projects. There's, keep your eyes out for the next round of that coming soon. We also have Deerfield is working. They have a fellows program. They also support our internship program, and then we have activities like Humanity Health as a company that was recently started. And I will let Ron talk a bit about that. I think it's a really phenomenal way of bringing talent, not just working on finding that one opportunity, but actually coaching you and giving you the sponsorship through your career for minorities. And so I think there's just a number of different activities that will be happening in this building that will make sure that New York is very mindful and very focused proactively on making sure the gaps in equity in the industry are minimized here.
Terrific. So Howard, tell us a little bit about Caridia.
So Caridia is a incubator that started in about 2002. We were New York based actually and continue to be New York based for since then. We have started about 10 companies. We have about 200 issued patents. Our companies have returned over 1.6 billion to their investors. We're very lucky to be in this building for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is that a lot of things, everything's always been siloed. You have pharma over here, you have med devices over there, you have digital health somewhere else. This building is very unique, and we've looked at a lot of buildings around, and we even have engineering in Santa Clara in Silicon Valley that we're moving back here to this building. The reason is as you heard before, 3DC. You heard about digital health. You heard about a number of things that allow us to not only do medical devices, but to do medical devices interrelated with all this stuff. In addition, one of the things that we get to do here that we really wanted to do but didn't have the opportunity to do was to work with not-for-profit. So working with CobiCure, working with other things, working with the internship programs we're doing with underrepresented minorities and women. That's what makes this place, is like you said, the collisions occur. Mm-hmm. And you need to be in a place where that allows it to occur. And this is really the first place that I've been associated with that allows that.
So how are companies chosen for your program?
So, we're doing a number of things. We're going out and looking, of course, at different conferences and trying to find things that are worthwhile bringing back. But in addition, we want to put in place both internships in the New York area to build our job, so to speak, for our relationship. One of our relationships in Caridia is with Deerfield, and we're very lucky to do Deerfield Catalyst with them. So that's a medtech incubator based in this building with Caridia. And what our goal is to spin out 10 companies over the next 5 years. The problem with that is you need people to staff those companies. And while there's a fair amount of pharma and stuff in the area, there aren't a lot of engineers and other things for med device things. And with the EDC's help and all the other stuff that Deerfield is doing to put these things in place, internship programs and other things, we need to be able to do that. So The beauty of the Cure Building, it gives us a place to put our early stage companies. It gives us the ability to help start training the next generation of people that will spin out with those. And we'll be part of the ecosystem. We see New York City tri-state ecosystem as becoming very important for medical devices.
Yeah, that's very exciting. Very exciting. So introduce us to Humanity Health.
My name's Ron Mitchell. I'm the CEO of Humanity Health. At Humanity, we're building the premier career acceleration and talent sourcing platform for healthcare leaders who identify as people of color and women, and/or women. And we thought when we were, and just a little background on Humanity Health and how it came about. The idea started here at Deerfield, and Jim and one of the partners here, Julian Harris, had a vision of looking at the landscape of healthcare, and not just looking at it from a social lens of saying we really need to be fair and see more inclusive leadership in any organization, in any business. But I think also looking at it from a strategic lens, which is where are the opportunities in healthcare, right? And innovation. Where's the economy going? Where are demographics driving towards? And if we don't have proper representation and leadership, are we truly going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities? And so my conversations in that, I was focused on not just providing and looking at a talent sourcing vehicle for the industry. And as Howard said, it's a challenge. I mean, talent is a challenge in every industry. It's particularly a challenge, I think, in this industry. But also looking at it and flipping the switch and saying, that's a critical component of representing institutions and organizations. There's another component of who's representing the talent, right? Who's looking out for the interests of the talent? Who's helping that talent build those developmental roadmaps that they need to be in position to access those opportunities? And Susan, I don't know if you knew it or not, but you used the key term of what we try to do for that talent, and that's sponsorship. And so we looked around and said, how do people accelerate within organizations? And it's usually it's not really, mentors are great and coaching is excellent, but it's really, they need a sponsor. And I don't care who you are. You need somebody who's there, who's amplifying your work, who's connecting you to opportunities and people, who's endorsing you and banging on the table in those key decisions about who gets this job and who gets that promotion, and they provide you support. And so that model, which we call ACEs, amplify, connect, endorse, and support, is really the foundation of the career acceleration piece of what we're doing for diverse talent. How can we amplify, connect, endorse, and support that population so that they can claim their seat at the table? So we're building both Humanity Health and the talent sourcing, and we're launching what we call the Humanity Talent Network in January this year, which will be the manifestation of that community.
So, and your work doesn't end once a person is placed, right? So you've got leadership development, coaching, and other programs where you're working with these candidates over time.
Yeah, I mean, for the talent network and career acceleration piece, again, it's the support part of that aspect is all the leaders who come into that community get matched with a personal career advisor. And that it's a slightly different spin. It's to help people understand what's their vision of where they want to be. We like to think of it as sort of vision, story, and journey, right? What's the vision of where you want to be in your career? And the reality is no one's doing that for any of us. I mean, maybe you have a one-off person, but no one's doing it. And so we want to institutionalize that. Then it's how do you communicate, craft, build that story? And then how can we help you on that journey to get there, right? And so that's a key element of the support. But we also make every person that will enter that community has to sign what we call the Humanity Pledge. Not only are we doing the work, but they have to pledge to amplify, connect, endorse, and support everyone else who's in the network, right? It can't all be about us. We have to support and connect each other. And another unique thing about this community is you know, we're targeting the services to women and people of color, but we're not restricting access to people of color, because I need people like Jim and people like Howard in that network, you know, as allies of that network, who can help amplify, connect, endorse, and support. I'm going to keep saying these words all the time but that's a sort of a critical piece. So it's building this sort of community mentoring circles that are part of it, one-to-one mentoring, you know, capabilities, the personal career advisor, and that ongoing endorsement and support and connection.
Yeah, and so, I mean, on your website, you talk about why diversity is so important, right? And the fact that better leadership teams are built with more diverse people that are participating in them. And so for the employers that you're working with, you're also working on looking at their branding to be sure that they are saying the right message to this group of people, right?
Yeah, I mean, we had a great conversation with 3DC even today, and this is why this place I think is so cool. You know, there's 3DC, there's Howard's group, there's Deerfield in general, there'll be a host of other companies here, all that are focused on, you know, healthcare, innovation, workforce, and equity, right? I mean, it's hard to, you know, if you're not thinking about equity today, then you're, you know, I don't know where you're not, you know, consistent with where the country's going. Yeah, I spanked on your question.
So employment branding.
Oh, employment brand. Yeah. So in the conversation with 3DC, this is important because, you know, in that instance, it's this phenomenal brand of it's a phenomenal company. It's like you get the innovation opportunity to build or, you know, do drug discovery, build organizations, and you're not only in this beautiful building, but you're in the Deerfield network and family and support and capital, right? But it's incredibly important, though, that organizations know how to tell that story. And employer branding is something that, you know, organizations do a terrible job of. But yet, like, you know, you want to buy a car, you're going to see a different advertisement for if you're a woman than if you're a man on Google. I mean, and that's like a given you would expect. But when we talk about opportunities, we don't do that. And this is particularly important when we talk about diverse communities. And I did a 3,000 person study for the hotel and lodging organization. And we basically analyzed, and this was around, you know, how people care about careers in hospitality. And we found statistically significant major discrepancies or differences in what different demographic groups care about when it comes to work, both across gender and across ethnicity. And so when 3DC walks into an organization or we're talking to an individual and is trying to recruit women, that story has to be slightly different than when they're trying to recruit men. And when they're talking to African Americans and Latinos, it has to be different. And so the healthcare industry is not a 3DC message. This is a message for almost any organization, and particularly in healthcare, that we need to start thinking about how we tell the story of the opportunity in these organizations differently, because different things resonate with different people, and statistically significantly within certain, you know, ethnicities and racial groups.
So this combination here is really, really fascinating. You know, I mean, when I first heard about the cure, I was thinking that it was going to be a place where companies that are coming out of your pre-competitive research across the country would be born here, right? And that's another kind of interesting element to this is your $1.5 billion investment in these universities around the country, primarily in pre-competitive research, right? So there's a long road from that evaluation of that discovery to actual commercialization. How many companies do you expect to be born through that kind of work?
It's a little hard to say because part of the magic is clustering these things. So, you know, at any one point in time, we'll have, right now we have 26 different drugs that we're working on that are very early. Some of them are just getting into people now, but most of them are still preclinical. That by the end of next year should look closer to 60, which is kind of where we're going to be steady state. They're all about 90% likely to fail. So, drug research is wildly risky. And, we've got geneticists on site. We've got every kind of, chemist, biologist, toxicologist, pharmacologist that you can imagine, but you still can't pick them, right? The biology is still super complex. So we don't really know what's going to be left. And we don't know how many of them are going to fit together. So what you really want to do is cluster these and do them in a way that makes sense to attract really first-rate management teams, and then, give birth to a company that will go from having people to 100 people very quickly. So, the nice thing is preclinically, and when you first get into people, you can show some pretty important things in terms of de-risking these compounds, and you really only need one to take a company public. So, it can happen very quickly. And we have a couple of things that are sort of reaching that, but it will depend a little bit on luck. Yeah. But as Deerfield, we start a company about every 6 weeks, just as a different framework. So
That's
since we
amazing.
look across healthcare, there's a lot of stuff going on.
And 90% of them fail. Is that?
No. When we start the company, it does not fail. We want it to fail before we start the company, because once you start committing to people
Oh, right.
and infrastructure, you want it to be a diverse set of assets, and you want it to be a durable concept. And so, once we start something, we don't expect it to go away. Yeah.
And you probably start companies with more than one product too.
And we start companies with more than one product. We try to cluster where we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to open it up to the audience.
Could
and,
I just say one
yeah,
thing first?
absolutely.
Because I think I don't want to gloss over something that is very unique about the cure. And like, for example, we're meeting with 3DC on Monday to look at different drugs that are known to work, but can't be delivered orally, and there might be a better way to do, or it can only be delivered surgically. Can we come up with a better device-based way to deliver those? So now you have something that works, but now you can practically deliver it in a broader group of people. But that's, again, this idea of bumping into people and seeing people. You have the top of the top here in those areas. And being able to work together is number one. Number two is, this is really, I think, and I'm sorry, I don't mean anything negative against any other centers. This is the hub of the ecosystem for me in terms of New York City and maybe the tri-state area. The reason is that there's a lot of things that go on here and a lot of projects that are already going on in terms of, we can't we want to start companies, but we can only start them if we can put people in them to run them. And historically, 10 years ago in New York City, that group of people was not there for us on the device side. Now they're starting to be. And because of the initiatives of EDC, because of initiatives from Deerfield, because of initiatives of universities and stuff like that, we're able to bring that entire ecosystem now a lot from the West Coast to the East Coast. And I've already seen people, moving that. So thank you very much to both of you for allowing that.
Well, and it's a great vision for this building. It's also a great vision for New York. We've seen the tech industry build here. We've seen life sciences building here. We're seeing, all the different sectors that go with all, and some of it's even less traditional than the usual drug development. Sometimes it's food development or clothing development. So New York City has so many industries that are having some of these collisions. Throw in some laboratory work with that, and I mean, we have so many things ahead of us. So it's going to be great, and I'm really glad to see the doors starting to open here.
Yeah, and I should also point out the innovations that went into converting this building into the building that it is. And several of our members were instrumental in doing that. And I just want to give a shout out to Gensler, who's the architect, and JBB, the engineers, and Cerami Associates, and Thornton Tomasetti, all of whom worked on this building. So thank you very much. So I just want to open up the floor and ask if anybody's got some questions. This is a great time to get your questions answered. Yeah, Jeremy.
Jason Kaufman with Silverstein Properties. Quick question. So when you're thinking about the acquisition of this asset for Deerfield, what is the calculus of the real asset cost relative to the calculus you're going to generate from creating the science in the ecosystem?
Yeah, it has almost nothing to do with real estate. It's a completely different calculus because, you know, Deerfield's an investment company ultimately. And so we're really interested in being in the center of innovation. That gives us access to smart people, gives us access to smart ideas. And ultimately, to the extent that those are successful and well supported, then there's value in that, which really doesn't require space as a business, but as a concept, it requires this. I also think that our foundation is going to be profoundly important in terms of the occupancy and activities in this space. And it breathes life into a lot of activities that we really couldn't bring together outside of infrastructure such as this. And of course, that has a completely non-commercial calculus as well. So, the way you ask the question would have a traditional answer, and the way we look at it is not. It's in a completely different framework. But it's a good question. We wonder about it sometimes.
Anybody else? Okay, well, I'm going to get out of the way of drinks and food and just want to let you know that you can go up to the roof and take a look around and enjoy a little bit. The space is empty right now, so please grab a drink before you go up and you can enjoy the space more that way. Thanks again, everybody, for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Stop. Would there be a virtual tour? Hi, does anyone know about us, we people who are on the virtual attendance of this meeting, that we have virtual tour of the property?